Hi, this is Rev Ed with today's Back Porch Devotional from Psalm 36. Transgression speaks to the wicked deep in his heart. There is no fear of God before his eyes, for he flatters himself in his own eyes that his iniquity cannot be found out and hated. The words of his mouth are trouble and deceit. He has ceased to act wisely and do good. He plots trouble while on his bed. He sets himself in a way that is not good. He does not reject evil. Your steadfast love, O Lord, extends to the heavens, your faithfulness to the clouds. Your righteousness is like the mountains of God. Your judgments are like the great deep. Man and beast you save, O Lord. How precious is your steadfast love, O God. The children of mankind take refuge in the shadow of your wings. They feast on the abundance of your house, and you give them drink from the river of your delights. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light do we see light. Oh, continue your steadfast love to those who know you, and your righteousness to the upright of heart. Let not the foot of arrogance come upon me, nor the hand of the wicked drive me away. There the evildoers lie fallen. They are thrust down, unable to rise. This is another one of the beautiful Psalms of David, and he begins by reflecting on the way of the wicked. He says, transgression speaks to the wicked deep in his heart, and it's as though sin itself is personified. And I imagine it's fair to say that all of us have heard the voice of transgression and sin whispering to us to encourage us to act in a certain way. But David is speaking here of people who are just all in on the business of living sinfully. There is no fear of God before his eyes. He flatters himself that he can't be found out. He flatters himself by thinking that if he does sin, they're just little sins and little white lies, and certainly wouldn't matter to a great and important God. The words of his mouth are trouble and deceit. Everywhere this man goes, he sows disturbance and trouble. He is eaten up with evil. He plots evil while he's on his bed. He does not reject evil. This is a picture of someone who has totally abandoned the ways of God and is comforting himself with the idea that there is no God, or that if God exists, he doesn't care. And sometimes we get the sense that evil folk might have a point. It looks to us like the evil are getting away with things, doesn't it? And yet we know that God sees all, that he is not mocked, he is not fooled, he is not under any illusion about anybody's life. And David contrasts this reflection on the life of the wicked by meditating on the goodness and the glory of God. And he focuses on God's steadfast love. Your steadfast love, O Lord, extends to the heavens, your faithfulness to the clouds. And we need to remember here that the word translated as steadfast love, and in some translations it's translated as mercy, but it refers to the covenant love of God. It is the love of a God who has promised never to leave us or forsake us. It is the love of God's people that God pledged to Moses when he revealed his true name to him, the name of Yahweh. The name of Yahweh stands in for those covenant promises. And so we know that God's love is unfailing, that God's love is permanent, that nothing can take it away. And this is the alternative to people who are wrapped up in evil and wickedness. There are only two paths that you can walk in this world. And one of the ways that sin works on us is by telling us that there's some sort of middle ground, that we don't have to be all in on this God business, and we can dabble in little sinful things. We can gossip among our friends and it doesn't hurt anybody. We can, eat all kinds of stuff and drink all kinds of stuff to excess. At times it doesn't matter. We're just living it up here down on earth. Nothing is insulting to anybody. And what we do is we get into this habit of sinful thinking, this habit, this pattern. And what we need to remember is that little sins breed big sins, and a little view of God breeds big trouble. And so David is just meditating on the glory of God revealed in his steadfast love to his people. How precious is your steadfast love, O God. The children of mankind take refuge in the shadow of your wings. It's the picture of small birds nestling under the wings of their mother in the nest. They feast on the abundance of your house. There is no satisfaction like the satisfaction of being fed with what God has for us. This is what Jesus meant when he said, I came that they might have life and have it in abundance, have it overflowing, have it to the full. And we get confused, and we think that that means that we're supposed to be wealthy and that we're never supposed to be sick and that all of our human relationships will be perfectly in sync. And that's not what it means. We feast on the abundance of the presence and the power and the peace of God himself. You give them drink from the river of your delights. When we satisfy ourselves with God, we will soon learn that nothing else compares, and that God is going to provide for all of our needs. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light do we see light. You know, Jesus said, if the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? And yet when we come to faith in Christ, the light is shown in our lives that reveals God, reveals his goodness, reveals his glory. And that's what we feast on. We feast on his steadfast love and enduring goodness toward us and for us. You know, it is only in the light of Christ that the world makes sense. I think it was C.S. Lewis who said, I believe in Christianity in the way I believe in the sun. Not only do I see it, but by it I can see everything else. This probably is the thought that John had in mind when he wrote the opening words of his gospel. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God, and all things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The true light, which enlightens everyone, which was coming into the world. Jesus is the true light of the world, and when we look to him, we can see how ugly the life of evil and wickedness and sin is, and we can meditate on God's goodness and pray with David that we would not be drawn astray by those who are evil, that we would not listen to that little voice that sometimes tempts us to walk in ways that are not pleasing to God. We need to remember that God satisfies us with things directly from his own hand, and that if we seek him first, all these things will be added to us, as Jesus reminded us. Know that God's steadfast love cannot be taken away from you, and therefore don't be satisfied with anything less than that. There's nothing that this world offers that can compare to it. God's blessings be upon you this day.